Hello, and today I'm going to guide you through the tutorial that will help you practice the tools that are used during the MCAS test. When you're taking the MCAS tests, and also when you're doing this tutorial and the practice test, you'll be using either a desktop computer, a laptop, or maybe a combination of both, or an iPad. If you're using a computer, you'll need to sign in to the testing account first. If you're at Heights or East, the username is testing and the password is test. If you're at Cottage, the username and password is MCAS. So computer users, you'll need to log into the testing account first. iPad users, you're just simply looking for the TestNav app. So the TestNav app looks like this. Once logged in and once ready, go ahead and double click or tap on it. Once TestNav has started, it should go to a sign-in screen that says Massachusetts above it. Make sure it says Massachusetts. If it doesn't, you'll need to go up to the top right corner of the window. At the user drop-down menu, you want to click and choose a different customer. From there, look for our state, Massachusetts, and click on it. But if you see Massachusetts here, then you're ready to go. Now on the actual testing day, you will be signing in with a username and password. But while doing the tutorial and the practice test, you won't need to sign in. So just go ahead and click on Practice Tests. Once here, click on TestNav 8 Student Tutorial. When you do take the practice tests later, you'll be going to one of these options. So I'm going to stop the video here so that all students can get to this screen, and then once everybody's at this screen, I'll continue. At this point, all of you should be at this screen on your device where it says, Welcome TestNav User. So again, this is the tutorial that will guide you through using the tools on the MCAS test. There is only one section, but yes, there are 42 total questions. Seems like a lot, but most of this is information which I'm going to guide you through. There's also going to be some sections that you'll skip, and then there'll be some sections where you'll get to practice too. So go ahead and click on the Start button. You may click Start again, it's just restating that there are 42 questions. And that brings you to the Welcome screen. Now, this is telling you that it is, again, a tutorial, that there are 3 parts to the tutorial. This is where you're going to be clicking now, and you'll be clicking each time we move from section to section. So go ahead and click on the Next button, right here, blue arrow. So when you're ready to take the actual test, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. And you actually already had seen that screen before. Now, most of you will not need to test the audio because most of you will not need headphones. If you need headphones, your teacher will tell you and you'll be given the headphones. So if you're not using headphones, there's no need to click on Test Audio. So you can go ahead and click this next button. Here is the sign-in screen again. On the actual testing days, you will be given a ticket that has your own unique username and password. You'll be typing that in carefully on the testing day. And once you sign in, you do want to make sure that your name is in the top right corner. So here where it says TestNav User, it should say your name, so we know that it's you that is taking the test. So go ahead and click the Next button to go to number 4. All right, follow along with me. This is the parts of the screen that is important that you'll see on most of the test. We know about the going back button and the going forward button, those blue buttons there. This is the review section, which we'll talk about in just a moment. The bookmark section. And then these are the tools. Depending on the test you're taking, you may see some of these tools that here, and you may not see some of the tools. This is showing you the type of test it is. And if there's a session number, the session number will be in here. And this is where you're at, and that's the total number of questions. Okay, and you can see a little bit more detail right there. So next button. All right, it's always a good idea to review your answers once you are finished taking a test. So to review any answers, you just simply click on the review button and you will see the questions that you've actually answered, and then the questions that you have not answered will have orange dots next to them, and you can see that that is also shown down here as well. Go ahead and click the next button. Bookmarking can be very helpful because there probably will be a question that you come across and you get stuck on and you just want to move on and come back to it later. Certainly advisable to do that. All right, so if you do need to bookmark a question, just simply click the bookmark button and then that will allow you to come back and review it later. You can see on this example that there are 2 questions that have been bookmarked on the test. So go ahead and try it out. Click on the bookmark button and click on review so that you can see that this question we're on, question number 6, has been bookmarked. Then to unbookmark it, because let's say you come back to it later and you've answered the question, just click the bookmark button again. All right, once you have practiced bookmarking, you can go ahead and click on the next button. All right, when you're at the end of a session, and all tests have at least 1 session, most of them actually have 2. When you do reach the end of a session on a particular day, you'll be given this screen that looks like this. It will tell you if there's some questions you've missed and there's some questions you've bookmarked. So that will give you a chance to go to the review button and head back to those questions that you have not answered or you have bookmarked. And you can see how there are some examples here if you scroll down on this screen. This is also a good chance to practice scrolling if you have not done that already, because as you can see, there's a lot of information here and you don't want to miss any of that information when you're taking the actual test. So again, you want to scroll down so that you can take a look at these examples of using the review button to go back to any questions and reviewing your answer. And then this is telling you that, let's say, you're way back on question number 2 and there's over 40 questions on the test, which is highly unlikely. You can just click end of section and it'll bring you right back to the end. It just jumps right back to the end. That's a lot easier than clicking the forward and back and next buttons several times. So I'm going to go ahead and click the next button. And then there's the end of session screen once again, but this time it's showing that all the questions have been answered and nothing has been bookmarked. So that's really what it should show before you click submit section. And most teachers will want you to let them know that you have finished before you click that submit section. So I wouldn't click on that till you've raised your hand and told your teacher on the actual practice and real tests. because once you do click that submit section button, it is going to give you a warning to tell you that once you leave this section, you can't return to it. So it's important that you have answered all the questions and you've reviewed before you click that yes button. Next. And if for some reason you need to exit the test before you're completed, and that could be because of a restroom break or stopping to go to lunch, you will need to go up to the top right corner and click on sign out of TestNet. I don't want anyone to do that now because that will exit the tutorial, but that's what you would do to come back later. All right, finally, next is the submitting the test section. And once you have reached the end of a session and there is nothing left of the test, and most tests actually do have 2 sessions to it, you'll be submitting final answers instead of exiting a section. And again, making sure you have reviewed, removed the bookmarks, and check with your teacher before clicking on that, because you can't go back once you've done that. Next button. So we just finished the first part of the tutorial, which is moving through the test. Now we're on the second part of the tutorial, which begins with number 11, using the tools in the test. So you should have this screen in front of you on your device. The tools can be in 3 different places. There's the toolbar tools at the top. There are sometimes tools in the user drop-down menu, which is here. There are 3 tools that are shown. And then on some questions, you may see some buttons on the right side of the screen, which has other tools. So go ahead and click the next button. This focuses on just the tools that are on the toolbar. So it's currently on the pointer tool, but there's also the inch ruler, the notepad, and the calculator. And if you click on a tool, it turns it off. You can only use one tool at a time. The answer eliminator, we'll talk about how that's used later. So go ahead and try turning a tool on and turning it off, but don't actually use it yet. All right, we're going to go to the next screen now. This is telling you about the pointer tool and that you can use it to choose an answer, to drag an answer choice to the right spot, to mark objects, or to turn other tools on and off. Pointer tool is pretty easy. You can click the next button. This is the ruler tool, and there might be some parts on the test, the math test that is, where you have to take some measurements using the inch ruler. Okay, so you go ahead and click on that ruler, so turn that tool on. Try moving it around the screen like I'm doing. Try turning it using the circles. Now scroll down and you're going to see 2 shapes. Try using the ruler to measure the sides of the triangle and the square. Make sure you have the edge of the ruler in the right spot for a proper measurement. Once you practice measuring the 2 shapes, you can just scroll back up and turn off the ruler tool. Okay, clicking on the next button once everybody's ready. Teachers, you may want to pause the video if the kids are still using the tool, and that applies to the rest of this tutorial too. Pause when necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and click the next button. This is the notepad. It's only available during the English Language Arts test. So if you're taking a math test, you will not see the notepad up at the top. and it's for taking notes. You might be reading a passage, and you might need to take some notes on that passage. So you can go ahead and try it out. Just simply click on the notepad and type a simple sentence, such as, "This is the notepad." I'm going to close this note, and then I'm going to click on it again, and you can see that the note stays there. All right, go ahead and practice using the notepad by typing a very simple, short sentence. All right, when we're ready, we're going to click the next button. We are going to skip this section because it's about the calculator and it's only available for 7th and 8th graders. So we're going to skip number 16 and skip number 17. Now we have come to the answer eliminator. That's the one I mentioned that's up here that we're going to practice later. So this is where we're going to practice using the answer eliminator. So sometimes you'll come across questions that have multiple choice answers, and you might be thinking, well, this isn't correct, so you can eliminate it by crossing it out to help narrow down your answer choice. As you can see, that was done here with the student that read the biography of Amelia Earhart, or at least a passage that came from that, and then there's a multiple choice question that follows, and the student went ahead and eliminated or crossed out items B and D because the student did not think it was correct. All right, so we're going to go and try the answer eliminator tool now. So to do that, you're going to click the next button. And then this is where we're going to practice using it with this question right here. So you're going to need to go up here and turn that tool on by clicking on it. And the question reads, which of these statements about the answer eliminator tool is correct? A, you can select an answer that you crossed out. All right, well, let's try that. I'm going to cross this out. Now I'm going to try to select it. Nope, it's not letting me do it. Okay, so that's, we can eliminate. This tool places an X on answer choices. Yeah, that actually looks right. I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm not going to eliminate that. C, you cannot remove the X on answers that you've crossed out. Cross it out. And it is actually letting me remove it, see? It's gone. So, yeah, you can remove it, so that's not correct. Cross it out. And then this tool is used to select the correct answer. Nope, it does not select the correct answer, so cross that out too. So the correct answer, it tells you right here, it's B. But since I can't choose it, I have to turn the tool off before I select it. There we go. All right, so once you practice using the answer eliminator, we can move on to the next tool, and that is the highlighter tool. So if you need to highlight words or sentences or a passage so it'll stand out, like you can see the user did that, or this user, I should say, student did that in this passage here, you can highlight it by simply holding down on the trackpad or mouse button if you're using a computer and dragging over the word. So you highlight words within Google Docs. It's very similar when you have to highlight in Google Docs to change the font. It's the same thing here, except you get to pick a highlight color such as blue or pink. If you don't want to highlight it, just unhighlight it by clicking here and it goes away. So go ahead and try practicing using the highlighter tool. You can also use that on an iPad too. You're just dragging over it with your finger. And once you've practiced, we're going to move on to the next section. The next section is about the tools in the user drop-down menu, which are right over here. There's a few of those tools available. So that's all that's really telling you about here with number 21. So I'm going to click the next button. We're going to skip this section, number 22, so you can click the next button again. And now we've come to number 23, which is the magnifier and zoom tools. We're going to focus on the magnifier. So the magnifier will make part of the screen larger. Magnifier tool's not really necessary on an iPad because you can use your thumb and first finger to pinch to zoom in and zoom out. It's still available though. If you go over to the drop-down menu and click or tap on Enable Magnifier, you can see that magnifier that pops up and allows you to focus in on maybe areas of the screen that have small letters and lets you see it a little bit better. Okay, so you can practice using the magnifier tool. And when you're done practicing, go over here and disable it under the drop-down menu. All right, moving on. Next, number 24, line reader mask tool. So this will let you focus on a part of a question or part of a reading passage. It's only available in the English Language Arts test. Okay, so if you look here, there is a passage that came from Tortilla's son. And if you wanted to focus on a certain part of that passage, you could use the line reader tool. It's kind of like reading with a bookmark. Okay, so if I go over here to where magnifier is, right underneath, there's show line reader mask. I'm going to click on that. There's the line reader mask. And I'm going to use the cross right here to move it up and down. So you might want to practice using some of these parts here. This is actually going to enlarge it right here in the corner. Okay, and this is going to stretch it along. So notice how now I'm sliding this line reader mask down and reading this section one line at a time. Okay, so again, you have to kind of adjust with these three parts right here in order to use that line reader mask effectively. So it takes a little bit of practice, so you might want to take a moment or so to practice using this tool. And if you don't find this tool useful, you don't have to use it. It's available if you need it and only if you need it. All right, when you are ready to move on, or the class is ready to move on, and teachers, you can certainly pause this video at any time if students need more time or if you just want to take a break from it and come back to it later. But what we're going to do now is we're actually going to skip ahead to number 29. We're on number 24 right now. So instead of hitting next, 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 next until we get to number 29, we're going to use the review button, because the review button is very helpful if you want to go to another section that's kind of further away. So I'm going to, now that I clicked on the review button, I'm going to go scroll down to number 29, question 29, and I'm going to click on it. In this last section that we're going to focus on in this part about using the tools is the exhibit. In the exhibit, it may or may not appear at all on your test, okay? But if it does, it's going to be on the right-hand side, and it's going to say exhibits. And it's going to have information. It might have a reference sheet, okay? Or it might have test directions if it's an ELA test, okay? So if you happen to see exhibits when you're on a question, just click on it, because it'll pop up with some information that you might need. And this is just simply a reference sheet that has some useful information about conversions and other measurements. And you can see the type of information that is here. Like if you wanted to find out how many pounds there were in a ton, you could use this reference sheet. So you could just click to close it, and then it closes it for you. All right, we have reached the end of this section on using the tools, and shortly we're going to move right into the last section, which is about working with test questions. Okay, so now we have reached the last section of the tutorial, and it has to do with working with test questions. So everybody should be on number 30 in the tutorial. So these are the different types of test questions that you'll be learning about. So go ahead and click the next button. You can click the next button again to go to number 32. And this is about scrolling. So it's important that you know that what you're looking at, it may not be everything that you need to see. It could be more. So you will have to scroll by using the scroll bar right here on the right side. So this scrolls the window down, but you'll also see that sometimes there's scroll bars within the window. So for this poem in the Ebony Room, there's a smaller scroll bar that allows you to read the poem. So go ahead and practice scrolling within the poem in the Ebony Room. All right, once your class is ready, click the next button. Next, multiple choice questions. This should be pretty familiar to you. You've probably taken a test or a quiz with multiple choice questions on it. So multiple choice questions have a circle next to each answer choice, and there's only one correct answer. So if I scroll down here, there is a question about a multiple choice question. Which answer best describes a multiple choice question? And there are 4 choices. Well, let's see. Multiple choice questions have a circle next to each answer choice. Yes, that's true. But I'm going to read what the rest of the responses are. They have only one correct answer. That is also true. And then you can choose the answer to a multiple choice question by selecting the words in the answer line or the circle to the left of it. Looks like that is true. So I just clicked the circle to the left and it selected it. When I go back here, if I click on the words, it also chooses the answer. So looks like it's all of the above, which, look at that. It says the correct answer is D. You won't see that on the real test though. It doesn't really give you the answers. Okay, so once you practice that, let's go to the next section, which is multiple select. So multiple select is more than one answer choice. And instead of a circle next to the answers, you see a square checkbox. So if we scroll down to the try it here, let's see if we can select the 3 answers that best describe multiple select questions, and there are 5 choices. Okay, so they have a square checkbox next to each answer choice. Yep, that's correct. They have more than one correct answer. Yes, that's also correct. You can answer the multiple select questions by selecting the words in the answer line or in the checkbox. All right, I'm going to select the words in the answer line. Yep, that worked too. Sometimes that's easier than trying to get to the cursor inside the tiny little box. Multiple select questions always have 3 correct answers. I don't think that's right. And you should always select only one answer. Well, no, that's not true because they have more than one correct answer. Once again, there's the correct answer that telling us that the first 3 answers are correct. Okay, once you've done some practice with multiple select, you can click the next button. Drag and drop is next. Very easy. Actually, very easy with an iPad. Maybe not as much with a trackpad or a mouse, but you've had mouse practice and trackpad practice before, so it should be pretty easy to do drag and drop. So go ahead, you'll see 4 numbers here. Place the numbers that are even into the correct box and the numbers that are odd into the correct box. You can try dragging them in And you can also try dragging them out too. All right, once you've finished practicing with drag and drop, you can click the next button. So there are some questions that require you to mark the answer, and that basically just means selecting it or selecting the object. And so there is also a possibility of there being more than one correct answer as well. So you select as many answers that you need. So for this little triad here, it tells you to select all the shapes with 4 sides. So go ahead and try to do that. And I can see that there are 2 shapes with 4 sides. All right, once you've practiced marking objects, just like we've done, you can click the next button. Next type of question is fill in the blank. So sometimes you'll just simply type your answer. And down here you can see it gives you some practice with entering some numbers. So if I click in this box and I enter the number 23.75, it says now to change your answer to minus 54 or negative 54 is how that's read. So you can just use the backspace key to change the answer. And then it finally says to change the number to 6,345. So go ahead and try that on your own. This next part, the equation editor, is the one that you'll probably want to spend the most time with. So there are going to be questions on the math test. You won't be taking the science test that's mentioned here. The math test in which you have to use the equation editor to show your work. Now your work would be really your final answer because you can do all your thinking on scrap paper. So I'm going to scroll down to show you where you can practice using the equation editor. Now the equation editor has 2 parts. There's the box A, where you type your response, and then there's box B, where you can use the symbols that are there. I'm going to keep going, and you're going to be practicing inside this first equation editor, which says grades 3 through 5. And in this tiny little box, you can click and then type the equation 2 plus 3 equals. So I'm going to type 2. I'm going to use this plus sign right here, then 3, and then I could click this equal sign, or I could just press equal on the keyboard. Either way will work. Now, if you were going to try entering in another equation, you would click the trash can to clear it, and then it tells you to enter 2 times 3. So for the multiplication symbol, I am going to click the time sign, and I'm not going to press the X on the keyboard. Now I'm going to pause here so that you can use the equation editor, and your teacher may want to give you some additional equations to practice in this box. Again, when you are entering in a new equation, just simply click the trash can. You can also, if you make a mistake, you can click undo. So when you are finished practicing the equation editor, you can move on to the next question. So this section will help you practice typing within a response box. So there'll be some questions on the ELA test in which you will have to type a short paragraph to respond to a question. So if you scroll down, you'll see here the parts of the response box. So box A, part A, is where you're going to be typing your words. B are the tools that you can use. C is the scroll bar. And D is the character count. So every letter you type, it counts. It'll do a countdown from whatever number is the limit. So if I scroll down to the bottom, there is a sample response box that you can type some sentences in. And notice it gives you up to 1,000 characters or letters, including spaces. So go ahead and click inside that response box so that you get a cursor. And this is a lot like Google Docs, where you type a sentence or sentences or a paragraph. So you can type a few sentences about a topic of your choice, unless your teacher gives you a topic. I'm purposely misspelling some words here. And if there is a spell check available for you, it'll be right here, and you can just click on it, and it will underline any words that are misspelled in red, and it'll give you the opportunity to fix it. And if that is the case, the words underlined in red, you click on it, and you will see a suggested spelling. If you know you've spelled it right and it's just not recognizing it because it's maybe a name, you could mark it as correct. So it's a possibility you may have the spell checker on there. If not, then you would have to do your best with spelling. So once you've practiced with the response box, you can go ahead and click the next button. And this is just referring to the spell check that I just mentioned. It's automatically available for the science test, but that doesn't apply to you because you're not taking it. The math test, it will not be on. It's possible it'll be on the ELA test, but if it's not there, then again, you just do your best with spelling. All right, last topic is the glossary. So when you're reading passages, there might be some words that are not familiar to you. And if they have a dotted line below them, that means that it'll give you a definition of the word. So if you go ahead and scroll down until you get to the passage about Matthew Henson, and then use the scroll bar within that passage, and look for words that have that are underlined. And when you see those words, go ahead and you'll hover over it. You'll see a question mark, and if you click or tap, you'll see the definition of the word. So go ahead and look for more words within the passage that are underlined and click or tap for the definition. And once you are finished, you can click the next button. And we have reached the end of the tutorial. And on the next page, there'll be the opportunity to submit final answers. And this will tell you how many you did not answer and how many you've bookmarked. Now, I have stopped this video several times and come back to it, so it looks like I've only done a few questions. But I'm confident that I've finished, so you have as well. So once you do click on this, remember you can't go back to it. So go ahead and click Submit Final Answers, and then click Yes, and then the sign out is complete. And make sure you go up to TestNav if you're on a computer and quit TestNav.